Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Space Between podcast. I'm Renae Lipsmeyer. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment on these videos. Thanks again for watching. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Space Between podcast. I'm Renae Lipsmeyer. Today we have a wonderful guest on from another podcast, Miss Melissa. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Renae? Thank you so
I'm
much
good.
for having me.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being on my podcast. I have to tell everyone first where I found you and how I found you. So I'm always on the look for interesting guests on the podcast because I really want to get a very broad look at what this community looks like, and there are Dave Matthews Band fans all over the world doing all kinds of different things, and so I am looking for fans that are part of this community that have a different story, and your story stuck out to me. You are also a fellow podcaster that talks about the Dave Matthews Band, and so you're striving for some of the same things I am, so I appreciate what you're doing on your podcast. So tell us a little bit about who you are, what your history with the band looks like, and just a little bit about your podcast, and we'll talk more about that later.
Sounds great. So, let's see. I have been following this band since 2008. Crazy story into that, but I just got hooked. It was a saving grace for me. I didn't know who Dave Matthews Band was. I got dragged to a show in Camden. A night 2 show in Camden, and it was actually one of the very last shows Leroy got to play it before he died.
Wow.
So not knowing the, amazingness of Leroy, of what he was then, and then being at one of his very few last shows in the very beginning for my start of the band was probably a great memory I'll cherish forever. And then
Absolutely.
I started going like one show a summer. And then my friends fell out of the whole Dave Matthews thing, and I got left into a decision. Do I end it or do I continue? And then I started going solo, and I never looked back. And I am grateful for where I am now, 42 shows and counting. And it led me to get my podcast going, the number 41 show. If anybody recognizes me or knows or listens to our show, we'll be back in the summer, but it makes my life happy. This band just brings me joy, and it gives me such positivity in my daily life. And I'm always comparing my people, which are my Dave Matthews people, to other people in my outside world, I guess, of Dave. And that's it. That's my life with it. And I've been fortunate enough to meet Dave twice now. And if anybody has the
Give
chance,
me the scoop. I want to know.
I have a fun
Tell us
story
the story.
For that. Let's see.
I want to know.
First time I met Dave was 2015. It was outside of his hotel in Philly. Because I was totally not stalking or anything. Just kind of, sort of was just there. It was very brief. A lot, like about 15, 20 people standing behind a red rope, and I was fortunate enough he only stopped at me, took my picture, said hello, asked my name, and went on his way. Still probably, that awesome. I'll never forget that feeling. And then fast forward to 2020, about 3 weeks before the world shut down to COVID, he had them 2 private book tours, one in New York City and one in Seattle. So me and 4 of my Dave girls went up to New York and camped out from midnight until 9 a.m. to get our wristbands to have a private meet and greet with Dave at 6 o'clock at night. And
was it worth it?
Being up for 30-some plus hours, it was worth it.
Still worth it.
Still worth it. It's something I will cherish. And it was done with 4 girls that we all met in a pit line somewhere along the line, and never all hung out really before until just randomly decided to do that. My friend Lauren Arvine, not sure if you know her, she's out on the in the world, She runs the One Sweet World Instagram. She makes the bracelets up. You'll have to look into her. She created that whole plan and got us all together, and we went on a wing and got an experience of a lifetime with that. So
absolutely. And that probably brought y'all stronger, being stuck together for such long, strenuous hours. It either brought you together or you're like, I hate that bitch after this.
Oh yeah, I mean, we didn't plan it very well. It was the middle of winter, and like I said, it was literally almost 3 weeks before the world shut down completely, till we all went in our little COVID world. So, COVID being so fresh and new, not really knowing what was going on, here we are, a bunch of idiots camping out on a sidewalk for 9+ hours to meet a celebrity, you know? But I would do it again in a heartbeat. And absolutely. It was, you know, I would probably next time get us a hotel room. we kind of like lived out of the car the entire thing for that. It was an experience. We remembered layers. We wore a bunch of layers. We were geared up camping. It was a good time. And we had to kill. So we got our wristbands at like 9 a.m. because there was only like 200 people they were letting in. Like, that's it.
Oh.
Yeah, it was a first come, first serve, 200 people max, that's it. And it was interesting, to say the least. And then we're like, okay, get our wristbands, get the books to go, come back and get signed. The event wasn't until like 6 o'clock at night. We're like, all right, what do we do now? Like, I remember us like taking an Uber all the way into like Times Square and trying to kill a day, and we were so overly exhausted. But I think like all of our like second wind finally kicked in right before we were getting ready to go back for the actual meet and greet, and it was just, you could see it in our faces, like the tiredness, the exhaustion, like, ooh. But I would, like I said, I would do it in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I'm so glad that you got to do something so big right before the world ended for a little bit.
And to have, like, the security was letting Dave have, like, 2-3 minute convo for each person for the meet and greet.
Wow.
It was an amazing experience. It really was.
So what do you talk about? Like, what was your leading... Because, you know, I fear that exact moment. Like, if I ever, you know, whatever, like, what do you say first? And so what did you lead with? What was what were your words?
It's funny you say that, because you automatically think you're going to be starstruck. Like, I know I've met several celebrities over the years. We're like, what? Like, you know, and Dave, both times, I was as calm as a cucumber. Like, I felt like I was talking to my friend. Like, that's how great of a person and his, like, vibe comes off. He's so humble. It makes you just not forget words. And I was debating, I always said my next tattoo would be, if I met Dave again and got him to autograph something, I was getting his name tattooed on me. I was getting his autograph tattooed on me. So that's what I let in with. That's what I told him. And he asked me how I was doing. Told him how we camped out all night. He looked at me like crazy. Like, okay, you crazy. And then I told him, I said, can you make your signature look really extra pretty? And he looked at me and he's like, may I ask why? And I was like, I'm getting it tattooed because you're not allowed to physically draw on me with this COVID thing. And he started laughing. He's like, I'll see what I can do. And then he looks up, he's like, so where are you getting the tattoo? And I said, I already have a fire dancer and the number 41 on my left hip. And he's like, I approve. I'm like, I'm glad that you approve, Dave.
Hey. Dave signed your hip, like, in a way.
Yeah. So, and it was just like really short, sweet conversation. And it was just awesome. And if I can find it, I'll share it on your Facebook. My friend Annette, she was with us. She videoed the entire experience of all, like a couple of us all going up to meet Dave. And it was really cool. And her sarcasm and just vibe about it was so funny. And just like going with random girls that I've barely ever hung out with made it a better experience. You know?
Sure.
Life is just short. You have to live it each moment as you take it. And being able to do these kinds of experiences with Dave Matthews Band is the moment you always want. And that's
Right.
why I love this. I love doing my podcast, talking about this band. The world needs more positive energy, and the band gives that out. And I wish a lot more people understood what we understand of being fans.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
and it's like people just don't get it. If I don't know how many times somebody's asked me, why are you seeing Dave Matthews again? Didn't you see him like 50 million times? Isn't it the same show? I said, nope. It is a new show every show I'm at.
Every
That's
single
for
time.
sure.
And there is no way you can explain it. I think that in my mind, at least, I have decided that for someone to accurately form an opinion about the Dave Matthews Band, they have to see them live before you can tell me what you think, because just listening to an album or them on the radio, you're not getting like a true experience. Yes, you're hearing like what they have put out in the world, but like to really understand, you have to go and you have to experience live music the way they are on stage, but also just the fan base that's there and like how all of that together makes you feel, because the feeling that comes along with being at a live show is what makes it for me. Like the music makes it, but then the feeling of the fans and the people that I know are like digging it the same way I am, like all of that together is it's just the perfect thing, right? I mean, do you understand kind of what I'm saying? Like it's just it's so real, but it's so hard to explain unless someone's gone and actually done that.
And it's funny you say that, because I have a friend of mine who I've known for years. He has a pretty cool job. He is like a traveling bar manager for like all different festivals all over the country and whatnot. And he's always been asked to go like work like a Dave show. Like he had the opportunity to do the Gorge last year, but he didn't get to go. Something else came up. So he actually worked the Innings Festival in Tampa. And he called me after that run and said, I get it now. I said, what are you talking about? He's like, I worked Innings. My boss let me actually go and enjoy Dave Matthews. He's like, because I was telling my boss, oh, my friend's going to be so, angry with me if I don't catch this Dave. And he told the whole story about it. And his boss actually, you work hard, go enjoy it. He called me, he's like, I get it. Like, what do you, and he's like, I get why you do this. I'm like, thank you. I've been waiting for somebody to say that to me on the outside. Like,
right. Absolutely. It makes you feel like a little less crazy when someone finally gets like a little piece of it.
But,
like, I'm not crazy. I promise you, this band is just that good.
Yeah.
But I had a similar situation. I had a friend that came over yesterday, and she was driving back from her home state, and so she had some time in the car, and she said, I was driving my mom's car, so we had XM. So I just listened to Channel 30 because it made me think of you, Renae, and she said, the more I listened to it, now, of course, this is just like listening in a car, but she said, the more I listened to it, the more it made sense. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, but that's with everything. Like, if you really want to enjoy like a new kind of pizza or a new whatever, you really just kind of have to spend time with it and go, okay, like, what are we looking at here? And just kind of digest it. And I think it's the same way with this band. Like, you really kind of have to dig in a little bit, because there's so much history in this band. I mean, we have 32 years where their music has continuously evolved, I think. And even if it's gone off in one direction, then sometimes it comes back in the other one. But as we can see with the new song Monsters that released, the music is swaying. It's swaying a little bit. But even though we know this song has, from Dave himself, said it's been out on the shelves for years and it just never was the right time to slip it on an album, now is the right time for them.
It really is.
It is the right time, and I agree with that. So let's talk about Monsters. So, of course, it debuted in Mexico when everybody got to go to the beach and see Dave and Tim. I'm super jealous. I always am. I'm like sitting at home going, God, it's freaking snowing outside, and everybody's with Dave on the beach. Next year, I can always wish and say next year, but That's my wish. But it debuted
I think we're all famous for that. I think we're all famous for saying that. I keep saying that about the Gorge every year. Next year, I'm doing it.
Yes.
Next year,
yes.
We'll get there. I think this band still has a good 10 years left in them. And I
sure hope so.
I think we'll be able to cross off our bucket list. Destinations.
I sure
with
hope
this band,
so. One day it'll happen. So let's talk about Monsters. So tell me, digest it for me. Tell me, when was the first time you heard it? How many, have you listened to it over and over trying to, digest it? And what are your initial thoughts about this song?
So, it's funny you say that. Let's see. Where did I put my notes? There we go. So, Monsters. So, I listened to it right away when it dropped at midnight the other night. And...
yeah.
And at first, I caught where they accidentally dropped the slower down break free version. And I think they caught that real quick.
I didn't hear it, but I heard that it dropped accidentally.
Because at first I'm like, wait a minute. Did they change the wording to break free? Or, did they just do a name swap like they do with, in several songs he's famous to change the title on. So...
right.
I didn't like it at first. And again, it was late at night listening to it. So I'm like, all right, let me sleep on it. Wake up in the morning. Played it 2 times in a row. It started to grow on me. And then I had to dissect the song. So I had to search for the lyrics right away.
Yes.
So I just had it on continuous loop. And then the lyrics just spoke to me. And this is my interpretation of it. So, Monsters is that song that you feel like you have to listen to about 3 times before you can really put your thought onto it. It is now my obsession. It really is. And the lyrics, to me, are just magical. And once again, it's brilliant writing by Dave Matthews, period.
Absolutely.
And... let's see, my definition of this song, Monsters, would be it's about mental health. I believe the song is breaking down the point of someone who is in a bad state of mind mentally and wants to escape from life altogether. And and my favorite lyric in this song is, you can't cross the ocean if you can't get past the break. Right there.
Yes.
It speaks on so many levels. And it's an eye-opener. That lyric right there is an eye-opener. We live in a world where mental health is such a silent thing that is not discussed. And more people are losing their lives because of mental health.
It's 100% true.
And this song and these lyrics are describing what it's like for somebody to live inside their head. Mm-hmm. And I am that person who lives inside their head a lot.
Raise your hand if you live inside your head.
I've managed to make a life change for myself last summer, and I'm on a new life, on a new pattern. So hearing that type of song is a fresh eye-opener. Realizing, we will always have those demons we're going to go back on. But we can't let those monsters in our head eat us away. So, that's what this song is to me. That's a saving grace song, in my opinion. And I'm just obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with the vibe. I love the groove to it. It's a different sound than what we're used to.
It is. It's completely different, but I think there's some value in that because it sticks out, right? Mm-hmm. And it has such a great message that it sticks out almost on purpose, because it's I want you to listen to this, right? Because if you're just listening to a whole album, and obviously we don't know what the rest of the album sounds like, but if it's completely different than this song, or if it's the same, it doesn't matter. People are going to hear this song and they're going to start digesting it because it's a Dave Matthews Band song. And when you're breaking it down, kind of just like you, it pulls that awareness out of okay, I do know what he's saying, and how can I apply that to me? Or I think it's so applicable in everyone's life. I think that this song will be life-changing. I do. I think it's such a smart move, but also I don't even want to say smart. I want to say what a I have no words, but like what a really great song for them to hold on to, not knowing kind of what, when, or where, or what they were going to put it on, but like saving it and saving it and saving it until the right time. And 2023, there's never been this amount of pain or hardship or struggles or suicide attempts or suicide. Like there's never been this rate before. And so for them to lock in and go, now is the perfect time. Now, whether it happened that way or not, but it did happen this way, whether it was on purpose or not. And I think that it's brilliant from the band. Brilliant for the band.
And like, and it really goes, especially gun violence too. A lot of these mass shootings are being caused by people with mental health problems that are overlooked. And that song really, really describes that mental health state of mind. Absolutely.
And I think, one of the most important things I've ever heard in my lifetime that I could kind of like pull back to this song was someone once said, you can't control the voices in your head. You can't. Whatever comes inside your head comes inside your head, and you can't stop that from happening. However, you are in full control of what you do with those thoughts. You are the only one that can act on it. You're the only one that can trash those thoughts. You are the only one. And so I think that it's so important to hold that kind of in the same place as Monsters, but I think he's just giving so many people hope, going, hey, you are not alone. We're all fucked up in the head, but the deal is, you don't have to do any of that shit, right? We've all got something telling us to do terrible things in our lives, or that we're not worthy, or that we're not whatever it is that, we are hearing. Everyone's got that. We've just got to figure out solutions to make those voices go away. And for me, I can only speak for me, but one of those ways that I keep my mental health sharp and strong and outside of my head is by listening to the Dave Matthews Band. And I think a lot of people share that same, like, this is what I get from this, is I get outside of what's in here, because what's in here is toxic. It's toxic, what I tell myself all day long, like, you're a loser, you're not worthy, you're not good enough, you're not blah, 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 blah. And I think most people are that way. So for the band to come out and break this song out and go, yep, you know what? We're all dealing with the same shit. It's just fascinating that they can do that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it made me, it made me think, I think you posted it, I think a few weeks back. You had went on a little Facebook Live about the song Don't Burn the Day Away. A pig. Yes. And it really made me sit there and just re-listen to the song on a whole nother level. And I thank you for that, because I love that song so much, but then you really go and break these lyrics down, and you actually just read the lyrics with the song sometimes. Really makes you interpret something completely different, and it just made me fall in love with that pig so much more. And
isn't that awesome to fall in love with a song more than once? I'm like, I thought I loved it, but now I'm like through the moon. About a 20-year-old song or whatever it is, But I believe that, like, as we get older, and as life happens and new things are introduced in our life, and things are taken out of our lives, whether that was by choice or by that's, what's happening, whether that's death or whatever that looks like. I don't even know where I was going with that. There we go. It was so good, I forgot. Where was I going? So don't burn the pig. I remember hearing that song, and I guess it was the day that I did that, and I love Pig. Who doesn't, right? It's such a positive, like, all the things. But that day, I was having a day, and so I heard that song, and it just kind of, like, cleaned up my thoughts, and I was like, okay, I know. So Dave is like my unofficial form of therapy, and I'm not saying that it should be anyone's therapy, because you should probably see a professional, and Dave is not it. But therapy can come in many, many, many forms, and I believe that music is one of the strongest ones. So
of course,
thank you, Dave Matthews Band.
Absolutely. Like, I wish I knew. I wish Dave Matthews would understand how much he really helps us.
Do you think he does? I mean, surely people are telling him that in some way. But do you think that there's any way he can truly understand what he's done to millions of lives across the world over a 32-year, stance?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he does. I mean, what makes me love Dave Matthews is he doesn't make himself to be some famous celebrity, some famous hotshot. He does not do this for the money whatsoever. He does it for everybody he sees out in that crowd. And he truly loves playing live. He truly loves music. And he truly loves playing the gift that he knows to make us all happy. And that's why I love this band so much.
Absolutely. So many reasons, right? So many reasons to love the Dave Matthews Band. So my next question was going to be, did you hear the slowed down version of Break Free? And it sounds like you did. So give us the scoop, because I did not get to hear that. Now, I did hear, that it got leaked or whatever, and that a few people got to hear it. And I have asked one person, so tell me the scoop. Did it sound like what we know? Because, where's it at? Where's it at?
Right.
I'm a big fan of the song, and so I was like, I want to know. And
so
tell me.
It's funny because I had my nephew's 10th birthday party on Sunday, and it was in a park, and this lady was walking around doing giving out henna tattoos. So I got love. If you could see it.
Oh my God!
It's the Matt Wallen, or however you say his last name, Foundation. She's like, do you have an image of it? I said, yes, she did it perfect. It's like, all right, I need this tattooed now. That's my next.
Well, send me a picture of that too. Send me a good picture of that.
Yeah, I will. But so actually, because I know you had this mentioned about the release of Monsters, a rumor about the slowdown version. Okay, so let me see. Oh, and then do you think these releases are a sign of the new tone of 2023? I don't think personally this is going to be the newer sound of the band, but it is really nice to finally hear something different. I feel like songs can be so predictable. Many artists are like that. Dave is not predictable.
I don't think so.
I don't think so either. But it is nice to hear a different version for sure. And
Absolutely.
As we fans know and love, we love our classics too. So we hope that he's not steering away completely from the old sound versus a new sound.
Right, no.
I hope he mixes the two in between through a live show. The break free slower version. Oh man, I'm like, oh my god, I got so excited because Break Free is my chaser. I have yet to see it live. It is.
You're gonna see it this year.
Yeah,
you're gonna see it.
Or you're
better.
or you're gonna see that girl run up on stage and be like, "Yo, Dave, come on, that's gonna be me." And then I'll be
32 years.
Literally. Yep. And then, I hope to see them keep to the old school jam sets, obviously, during a live show. But I want to hear how these newer tracks flow into the set.
Absolutely.
I don't want to see one of these songs as an opener, though. I'll be honest. I feel like we should stick to a classic.
I just never know. And I think back to 2018, which was the last year that they released an album. And I can't speak for every concert, but I know for the ones that I did, or particularly one that I did go to in 2018, he opened with She, which was an album song. And so, I do kind of think that this year will look a little different because they are pushing an album, and no matter what height you've reached in stardom, you want to sell your album, right? You got to, because you did put money into making this album. So I look for there to be a lot of songs that are different this year, but I agree with you. I don't think that that's going to change their flow. I think that's just going to be an addition to what they are already doing.
Or we're going to hear a lot more of the newer album towards the end of the set before a good closer. Or you're going to hear at least one of them in encore. So it's hard. We can't predict what that man's going to write each night.
Be wrong every time.
And then I think I wrote in here, I said, you want to keep I hope he keeps with the old school jam sets. You know, not every single night, obviously, but I do love an old school Dave show. I mean, who doesn't love a good 15-minute seek up with that 8-minute intro? You know, like
I love it. I love it. I'll never get tired of it.
It could run 30 minutes, and I'll be in all my glory. Like, I love seek up.
I'm happy. Yes.
And I'm just really excited to see what else is on this album. Like, and it's like he's really teasing us. Like, it is not being leaked at all, which is great. And he's literally just dropping one little one. And I think we have to wait till the rest will tour. So.
Yeah, he's just like leaving little breadcrumbs and going, okay, just keep following me. I'm going to give it to you, but at my own time.
What are your thoughts on if you think this is going to be their new sound or not?
I don't think so either. I mean, I just think, I try to remember, okay, so even though they're 32 years old and we have all this history, like, there's still a relevant band that is still trying to be relevant. And so with that, you know, songs like Monsters and stuff have got to come out because it's about the times. It's about the times. And so I think, will they change? God, who knows? No one knows what the Dave Matthews Band is doing. But what I do know is I'm going to love whatever they do, because that's just... I've never not loved what they've done, and they've changed things up before. I mean, everybody wants to talk about albums like Stand Up or any of those albums that there are always albums where people are like, that was a Frisbee, or that was, you know, whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, I thought that was so amazing. So no matter what, there will be people that don't like it, and there will be people that love it. And that's okay, because that's what being a fan is about. However, just don't fucking yell it in the pit to Dave, because I don't want to fucking hear it, and he doesn't either.
I
know. If anyone yells about Monsters,
but we are really good. We are really good at looking at each other in our seats or on the lawn and be like, "What do you think the next song?" Or you just try to call the next song. Like that, I'm good at. Like, I can call that.
I love that. I love that game. And I get absolutely nothing from it, but like a magical feeling. Like, there's nothing like going, this is what they're about to play, and when they do it, you're like, fuck yeah, I am awesome.
It's funny. It's funny we talk about that. So in 2019, Camden, so night one, I had a solo seat. Don't know how I managed on Ticketmaster, but snagged a solo single 3 rows behind the pit. I don't know how that happened. So I knew it was a good section. I just didn't know exactly. I couldn't place it because I don't think I've ever sat that close up to that stage in Camden before, unless I was in the pit. But I get into my seat, and next thing I know, it's like 5 minutes later, I hear someone say hello. It's my friend. I don't know if you know them or not, but they're brother sister. It's Bassima and Bass. They're on Facebook.
Cool
names. Yeah, they're brother sister. Love them. You'll have to come to one of our tailgate caravans. We got to get you out on the East Coast, girl.
Yeah, I know.
these people are awesome. But I met them through the tailgate, caravan, and I was chatting with Bassima briefly before the show, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I'm in section 100, row C." I'm like, yeah. It's like, I'm sitting around that section too. So I sat in my seat. She's like, you told me section 100, but you didn't tell me seat number 17. Here, her and her brother were my seat people. They were my seat buddies. Unintentional. We did not buy our tickets together whatsoever.
That's awesome.
And she had called most of that show. And then if you hear it on Sirius, no, it's on the DMB hub. If you play the playback of Night 1 Camden 2019, he opens with Pig. You hear a high-pitched squealing girl. That is me. The tapers are right there. That is me. You can hear me through the show on that Night 1. It was so funny. But yeah.
Awesome. Everybody go back to Camden Night. Did you say 2?
Night 1 2019.
Camden Night. Okay, we're all going to listen for your pitched pick.
Oh, yeah. You'll hear it. I'll be like, oh my God. But, yeah.
You're famous.
Far from it, but, I'm hoping the podcast has some kind of boost,
Girl, right. Girl, right. You know how much a podcast pays? $0.
And it's funny, like, if you get the opportunity, because I know you're going to be traveling on your summer tour with your podcast, which I think that's awesome. Because me and Heather were trying to figure out a way to do that, but kind of hard with the equipment. But if you could do it, that's awesome. Go for it. And, like, please, like, I can't wait to watch your show when you're at like the show and trying to.
I can't wait to be there. I'll probably not be able to talk. I'll just be so overly excited to be like, oh my God, we're here!
But like, that's something that I definitely want to do down like the future. Like, try to like do a live show from a show, and But what was cool with me and Heather, because she's my co-host. She's in Texas right now. She lives in Texas, so she's actually moving back to the East Coast, I think in end of July, early August. So I'm going to probably be looking for some fill-in guest hosts. So if you're available, want to help me out on the show, come on.
Girl, there's not a bad day to talk about Dave Matthews Band.
Of course not. So, but each show we've had, she's always been in a different location because she's at a show. She was at a show. I was always home. But she's on the other side of the country, and and we make this thing work every week. It's pretty cool. It's really fascinating.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
How did y'all meet again? How did y'all meet?
So
and how did that all like come up together?
We met at a Dave and Tim show at one of the Tailgate Caravan events before night 2. That was in 2017. So the summer the band took a break. So the summer when Boyd got fired. Kick.
Yes.
And before we knew what Buddy was yet, Dave and Tim, I was like, that was the opportunity. I was like, I'm finally going to go see Dave and Tim. So I did both nights at the Mann Center in Philly, which was kind of like a mini SPAC. If you've ever been to SPAC, it's kind of like that. Oh, you got to go to SPAC.
I've heard it's beautiful. And I want to.
I went 2 years in a row. I went in 21 and then I went last summer. You have to go to SPAC. It is beautiful.
It's always one of those things like budget.
You have to plan it. Yeah, you have to plan it out. You gotta book in advance, or you're gonna be stuck in a hotel with people. You're just like, But
I'm okay with that. Like, I'd sleep in my car. So I'm like, honestly, I'll do anything for Dave, right?
Listen, the things we do for Dave, But
I'm cool with it.
We met at a tailgate, and it's funny. And we became instant friends since then. And we've been like shows together. When she comes to the East Coast, she comes up and visits. We'll meet up for lunch. Like, and I'm so happy she's finally moving back to the East Coast. She's moving back to Maryland, so it won't be too far away for me now. So I'm excited.
That's awesome.
And
yes.
The friendships you meet with this band is just beyond amazing. I wish the outside world was just like our Dave world. It's not. But
don't you?
Thank
God for the Dave Matthews Band, right?
Mm-hmm. Because we all can understand. We all can relate to each other on some sort of aspect of the band. So, and trying to talk to it. I'm sure you said your husband isn't really a.
I mean, he appreciates it, but like, is he a big diehard fan? No.
No, I mean, I'm hoping I can get my boyfriend to a show. I've been dating this guy for like 8 months now, and he's been really supportive. So he's not very technology savvy. He doesn't have social media, but I've been able to like send him like our links for when we do our shows. He'll go on like YouTube and he'll comment. Like he tries.
Good.
He'll put some funny stuff in there, but he's a sweetheart. I'm very thankful.
So
for
what
him.
What are his thoughts like when y'all first met? How do you introduce the fact that you're a diehard Dave Matthews fan, or was he already a fan? Like, is he a fan on any level? And like, what does he think about you and all the things you do?
He teases me about it. but in a nice way. You mean, like...
Sure.
It's not everybody's cup of tea, and I'm not going to force anybody to like it.
No.
You know, and it is... Dave is one of those bands, you gotta see it live first before you can understand it. Like for me, my first show, I did not know who Dave Matthews was. I was in a pretty dark place in my life. Pretty bad. And my friends at the time, she had an extra long ticket and called me, and she's like, "You're getting out of your house. You can't live in the dark anymore. Come on, let's go." And I'm like, no. She, like, literally I finally caved. And I was like, "Who are we even seeing?" She's like, "Dave Matthews Band." I said, "Dave Matthews who?" Never even...
You never heard of him?
Didn't even know a song. Okay. And I think it was... First few chords he started playing changed my life. He opened my soul. He saved my life. I saw that light. Mm-hmm. I saw the light that I haven't seen in a long time. Mm-hmm. This band saved my life. And it's crazy for people to be like, a band can't save your life. No idea. Like, you have no idea.
Yeah, it can.
Mm-mm. And I remember going home that night and just downloading every song and listening for hours and hours on end. And I said, why am I just knowing this band now? Like, where has this been? Like, it's magical. It's a magical
I like
band.
to think that it found you at the perfect time in your life, though.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you said, it literally saved you.
Mm-hmm.
So it really did hit at the perfect time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everyone else is a somewhat similar story about how they can tell a difference in their lives from the moment they really started focusing on the band versus it not kind of being a thing. Like, your life did look so completely different, whether that was the music that changed it or the community around the music that changed it. But this band has the impact to change lives. But I want to say that music has the power to change lives. And then that's really what it is.
Oh, for sure.
Music in general, whatever. Yeah.
And I finally have my chance to give back to this band and give back to this community. So I signed up, as I keep signing up every year to volunteer at one of these shows. I'm volunteering. I'm doing reverb both nights at Camden.
Awesome.
So I finally get to give back to this band that's given me so much.
Thank you for doing that.
I'm really excited about it. So
yeah.
And you get a free lawn ticket with it. So, and I'm sure I'll snag it.
It's amazing.
I'm like seat and pit bougie. So I'm sure I'm gonna probably get my single seat towards it and then just give away the lawn like I always do. Mm-hmm. But you know, it truly, you know, when you begin to give, when you give, you begin to live, and it's true meaning behind a lot of these lyrics and these songs that this band puts out is truth, like, and it's mottos.
It's absolutely
and
true.
It's the way we live life, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Mm-hmm. Well, I love that so much, and it's really good to. It's like reassuring to have someone else say your thoughts. You know what I mean? Like the things we all think, and then to hear someone else say it without prompting them to tell you, it just makes you feel good. Like, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy.
Right? It's like, I promise, I'm not crazy. There's others just like me, if not worse.
Promise. And it's amazing. It's amazing how many people, like, I'm sure you have people in your life. I definitely have people in my life that, like, don't even know that the Dave Matthews Band is still on tour. Like, have heard of them, but didn't realize that they're still a band that's out and touring and doing all that. So when they hear Dave Matthews Band, they're like, oh, like from the 90s, like the hacky sack guy. I'm like,
yes.
Where have you been? Where have you been?
Or
how can you lose them?
Or you have those typical, I only like Dave Matthews when he plays deep tracks only. I'm like, what is that even supposed to mean? Like, like, it just makes you want to, like, have you even sat there and listened to the band? Like, or have you been to a show? Probably not. No. Like,
probably not. Yeah. I refuse to listen to your commentary until you've been to at least one live show.
Absolutely. So how did you get your aspect of your podcast?
Like, how did I decide that I was going to do it?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, girl. That's a whole long story. It really is a super long story, but basically, I needed an outlet. I had just been through a lot. I like very similar story. I mean, we've all been in that dark space before where honestly I needed a lot of change in my life, and so I decided to start doing things that made me happy.
Good.
And so this is one of those things that I enjoy talking about with other people is the Dave Matthews Band. And so this came up just, what if you talked about them? What if you just chased after the very thing that you dream about? What would happen? And what would happen if it didn't work out?
Mm-hmm.
And I just decided, you know what? I'm not going to live a life where I was like, what if? I'm going to chase my dreams no matter how old I am. You don't have to be 18, 19, 20, fresh out of whatever to go chase your dreams.
Mm-mm.
I quit my job. I let down a lot of people probably, but like I'd gotten to a point where I was no longer a whole person. I didn't even care if I was on this earth. I mean, like literally it had gotten really, really bad.
Yeah.
And this change, and of course my family and everyone has been so supportive, and of course that all came first, but just this relationship with this band and the constant going through the stories that Dave has written, it has healed me from the inside out. And I'm sorry, I have not been healed. I have not been healed. It is making me a better person.
I don't think any of us are. And it's funny you say that. And so last year, a dear friend of mine who had his own podcast network thing with several shows on it came to me with the idea. He's like, did you ever think about having your own podcast? And I said, first, what's a podcast? Because I don't keep up with I don't keep up with this stuff, Yes. And he's like, then he explained it to me, and I'm like, oh, I like that idea. And he's like, wait a minute, why don't you have a show on my network for Dave? I said, and that was it. And it took off, and I got to pick Heather as my co-host. She said yes immediately when I pitched her the idea, and we changed a few things here and there, and I haven't looked back. And it was probably the best thing I ever did for myself as a positive, something you look forward to every week,
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool. Like, I like how you are, like, you record it, so we just dive in. We do it live every week. We know nothing.
I love that. You're so brave.
We know nothing about how to run a podcast, but we do it somehow.
Oh, I don't either.
No.
I don't either.
But
I'm a nurse. Like, I don't know anything about
it. And I'm going through, like, and similar to you, like, I'm going through a big life change myself. I am in recovery for something. I've been in recovery for about almost 9 months now. And for addiction, not drugs or alcohol, but there's other addictions, and you'd be surprised.
There's so many.
And that's why I get, like, my recovery and the people I'm in my recovery with, I feel the same way I do with my Dave family. Like, we all can relate on the same thing. And I quote Dave so much in my therapy sessions and when I talk at my meetings. I guarantee you I'm saying something at least once or twice that's relatable to Dave Matthews. And it's things like that really make you realize, like, I made the right choice. And, moving forward, continuing to live this journey, I'm bettering myself now, and continuing that, and also bringing positive joy to people with my show, and going to these shows for Dave, and continuing that journey, I'll be the happiest person for the rest of my life.
You're doing it. You are literally doing the very things that you said. Not only are you making yourself happier, you are also making other people happy. So, girl, you're doing it. You're doing it. You're doing some big things. And thank you for, like, not letting it weigh you down to the point where you wouldn't be here, because this is the podcast is going to be life-changing for you because you're going to ultimately meet people that you would have never met before, and they're going to say things to you, and you're going to say things to them that change your life. And so this is such an amazing journey, and I'm so glad to meet someone else that has like the same passions as I do, as far as like, not only do we want to talk about the band because we love them, but we want to talk to other people that have the same passions, and then by that, bringing it all together, we're helping ourselves, and hopefully we're helping other people.
Absolutely.
And so it's come full circle, and it's all because of a band. It's all because of a band. That blows my mind.
It really, 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 I look back and realize it's, people on the outside must think I'm fucking crazy. Like,
nah, who cares?
Who
even cares,
Who
right?
goes it with strangers and camps out for 9+ hours to meet a celebrity? Like, me. Like,
I mean, all of us, right?
Who goes solo to shows? Me. Like, and when 2021 tour hit, because we had to go through that terribleness of COVID took a toll on all of us. Did we ever think music was going to come back? Probably not. We didn't know what was going to happen. I went full force back into tour world. I didn't care what the hell was going on around me. I did the tour opener and the tour closer. Like, I traveled to North Carolina for the weekend. And Heather, the funny story with Heather too, she was planning her East Coast shows when she was coming back to visit family, and that happened to be around tour opener. She reached up to me and said, "Hey, I see you're doing Raleigh. Did you think about Charlotte? It's the same weekend. It's not far from each other." I was like, "Girl, I don't even know how I'm doing Raleigh." Like, said yes. That's how far as I got. She's like, she's like, "How about this? What if I buy your lawn ticket for Charlotte? You stay with me for Friday and Saturday in Raleigh and Charlotte. I'll cover hotel costs, and you just pick me up and drop me back off on the way to Maryland and back." Like,
yes.
That's why I love it. Like, that's why I love traveling. Like, you meet so many amazing people. I don't know how many times I shared a room with a stranger for a Dave show. And it's worth it.
But they're not strangers anymore, right? They're lifelong friends.
And lost some people along the way. We had a definitely terrible loss in our community last year. Doug Feld, he was a big part of our Dave world. And losing other people along the way too. It's tough, but we have to live the memory on for them. We have to continue going to these shows and keep inspiring everybody around us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let's close out this particular episode with talking about something new that we, as the Space Between podcast, are going to try to do. So this is episode 1 that we are doing this, and so we're letting Melissa be our guinea pig to see how it goes, but also just to be the first person to set the tone and see where this goes. And so something that we have talked about on the podcast that was really important to me, because I'm a nurse in my background, and mental health is one of the most important things I can talk about, only because personal experiences, but I hear from Melissa that everyone's got monsters in their head. Everyone does. And if you think you're alone, honey, you're not. You are not alone. And so one thing I wanted to start doing with this podcast that would elevate it and make it do something for good, because really me sitting here talking about Dave Matthews Band is fun, it's wonderful, but it's not doing a bigger good like what I wanted. And so we're going to use this as a platform to do good. And so by saying that, each episode we are going to highlight a charity, and the charity is going to be the guest's choice. And so I've asked Melissa to come up with a charity or a group of people who could use a spotlight to see what it is they're doing to help make the planet a little bit better. So Melissa, tell us about who your charity is, and after she talks, we're going to talk about how you can help that particular charity so that we can leave a mark on the world, knowing that the Dave Matthews Band fans have really tried to do our best, not only in sharing love and music, but also share just to share the love and continue the love.
Right. So when you, when we discussed the notes about what we were going to talk about in the show, The first thing we said monsters, and just made me think NAMI. NAMI is something near and dear to my heart. I've worked with them in the past. Tailgate Caravan, if anybody listens to the show or watches, knows Christine, Kevin, Jen, and Justin, who run that whole thing, and they're 4 of the most amazing humans that I'm honored to call my friends. They pick charities at different tailgates for Dave's shows, and it's all run by a donation. Food, alcohol is provided. You come with a donation, and they'll always pick a local charity, if not a couple, and always one of the charities is NAMI. NAMI is a chapter around me that is mental health and suicide awareness. And they always have group therapy sessions going every day. Online, you can go in person. During COVID, they were really, really all online, virtual. And they really are a good cause trying to help everybody with this mental health, pandemic we really have.
Crisis.
It really is.
It really is.
A pandemic crisis that is not talked about. I lost a personal friend of mine to suicide. It'll come up 2 years in August that she died. She committed suicide, and it's a hard thing, because it leaves you angry and wondering, did I do enough? Was I there? Should I have been there more? You'll never, ever understand, because those monsters in those heads may just be not enough for them to be saved. And it makes us have to help others. And any chance to donate to NAMI would be a great benefit. You're not only helping, charity, you're helping somebody get the tools they need to get themselves out of a dark place one day. So, and
I love that. So if someone wants to know more about that organization or that group, what are some ways they can find out about it online?
So I know they have their website. You can just Google NAMI. It'll come right up. And
is that NAMI? How do you
NAMI?
Okay.
Yep. And also, if anybody ever wants to follow the Tailgate Caravan on Facebook, Tailgate Caravan, they always have posts up about NAMI. I believe on our page, I think I have. If not, I will add it on there. Anybody wants to follow my show as well, the number 41 show, a D&B podcast, please like and share us. We always are talking about charities every week on our shows as well. And you're right, it's also a way to give back. I think it's great, and I think it's an amazing idea to talk about these charities, especially Dave is a person who volunteers and gives back to the community, and us as fans love to do that as well. So to follow in that footstep is an amazing experience.
Absolutely. We just have to keep, not only do we, I don't want to say saved, but like we can find what we need through this community and through the music. But one of the things is once we find our happy place is to share that so that someone else who may be in the same monster headspace that you were in can know some resources to get some help, because ultimately that's what we want we want to be louder than the monsters in your head, right? We want to say, here's help, here's how, here are resources, here are free ways to get to speak to someone.
Right.
And so, yes, that is our mission, is to make sure that no one feels alone and that these monsters in our heads are not louder than the hope that really is out there.
Right. And what I'm learning in my own personal recovery with what I'm dealing with, reaching out for help is not a weakness. It really isn't.
No. It is hard though.
It's hard, but it's not you cannot allow it to be a weakness, So
no.
And I hope and pray that we can get out of this crisis and people just walk around and listen to Dave Matthews Band, and then you're happy. That's how I feel.
Absolutely. Well, I always like to remind people, because you and I have both had our very personal experiences with mental health, but I like to remind people that anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation, all of these things, all of these things are common. You are not uncommon. You are not weird. There's not something wrong with you if you have any of these problems. These are problems that are okay to admit you have. And once you have and you've reached out for help, your life can really be so much better. But it is hard. It's hard to admit that there's something wrong with you, because that's the world that we are in right now, is that everyone has to be perfect and there can be nothing wrong with you. And you should never say anything that will hurt anyone's feelings, and being politically correct. All of these things that tell us we have to be perfect, we have to be perfect, we have to be perfect. That's impossible.
No. You're absolutely right.
You cannot be perfect.
Right. And I always say this. The word perfect is a fake word. Like, there is no such thing as being perfect. If you let me meet somebody that is absolutely perfect, I'm going to give them a rude awakening, because there's no such thing, I
will tell you where you're not perfect.
I think we're all...
No, I won't.
I think us as humans are always going to constantly try to live up to that perfect aspect
of
ourselves.
Of course.
But perfect shouldn't be a word in anybody's vocabulary. Unless you're writing it in a sentence. Perfect. Now, unless you're writing it in a sentence, you should be out of your vocabulary for life.
Right. You can write a perfect sentence, but you cannot live a perfect life. And you can't even have a perfect hour. It's just not something that we can achieve. So stop striving for something that you'll never reach, and just realize that all of us have monsters. Every single one of us, no matter what. And each of us have different monsters, because those monsters that speak in your head know everything about you, because ultimately that monster is you, and they know everything about you inside and out. And so they know exactly what to say to get you thinking. And so definitely reach out for help if that's something. There are so many hotlines, and I'm as bold enough to say, if you are having some kind of crisis, please feel free to reach out to me or Melissa, and we can help guide you. By no means are we professional therapists or counselors or even medical expertise, but we do want to help if you're comfortable reaching out to us. That is something that we would love to do.
Yeah, and there's that number now that they made that national. You pick up a phone, you dial 988. There's help.
There you go. Thank you, 988. Call that number. Those people are just dying for phone calls. Literally want to help you so badly. There's such a need for free help, and so 988. And so, Melissa, thank you so much. Now, there's a few more questions I want to ask you before we wrap up. But quickly, I want to know... What do I want to know about you, Melissa? Let's see. How did you come up with the name? So, yes, this begs for me to ask. Is number 41 your favorite song?
It is. So it's so funny.
Yes.
So 41 has always been my favorite song. Can I tell you why? No. Can I tell you the meaning? No. I just it just speaks to me on a level I don't think I have words for. I mean, I have the number 41 tattooed on my hip. It's something that just it's my favorite number. It's my favorite song, and it just felt so fitting. When we were figuring out a show name, we were going to be originally called the Lovely Ladies.
Yeah, is that at the bottom of your thing? Does it say Lovely Ladies? Yeah.
But then something's like, wait a minute, why don't we be the number 41 show? And that was it. It just clicked. It just made sense. It just went. And the rest is history.
Perfect.
Yeah. And then, featuring the Lovely Ladies as me and Heather are your lovely ladies.
That's right. I want to be a lovely lady for real so bad. I think once upon a time I said, do we want the lovely lady backs? And pretty much everybody said, no, we don't. We don't want that back, which for whatever reason. But the reason why I wanted to have that conversation is because I want to be a lovely lady. I can't sing, but I could get back there and just be their best whatever in the back, just with a microphone, yeah, I'll sing all the songs out of tune. I want to be a lovely lady.
Right? I know. It's yes. I feel like they kind of just completely disappeared. But
where did they go? That's the question. Where are they?
I do not know. It's a mystery we'll never understand.
It's a mystery we'll never know. Well, Melissa, thank you so much for being willing to record another episode for me. So if you guys have not checked out the Number 41 Show podcast, did I get it right?
Yes.
Definitely look it up. Tell us where all you can be found so that listeners can listen to you as well.
So we have our Facebook page, the Number 40. So it's the word "the" with the hashtag, the number sign, 41 show, a D&B podcast on Facebook. You can follow us there. We have it on Instagram too, same tag. We are on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, something else, and I can't think of it. But everywhere. And I believe we will be back starting the start of tour. So I'm coming up with when we'll be back for our season 2. Me and Heather go live every week, and it's fun. Come join us. And we're always looking for fans to come watch, join in. You are more than welcome to come on and guest with us a week. Please, the honor would be a privilege.
I would love it.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet a lot of people are going to message you and say, hey, I really want to tell my story, because there are just so many incredible stories out there from different fans, different walks of lives, and everyone's story is different. Like, how did they find the band? Why do they love the band? Like, what's your future look like with the band? Everyone's story is different. And so it's good to know that there are other people just telling the same story. So Melissa, thank you so much for being on this episode. And guys, be sure to check out her podcast and YouTube channel. And if you're listening to this podcast, just know that you can also watch it on YouTube under the Space Between podcast on YouTube. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you for having me.
We'll see everyone next week. Peace, love, and Dave Matthews.